Let's go ahead and start the meeting.
Okay. My name's Roger Barright, Program Manager or Program Specialist for the Housing Division. Logan and Sally can't make it here today, so they've asked me to step in. Gary, you want to?
Yep, be glad to. I think we're passing around the roll call, so it looks like we have enough for a quorum. So let's go ahead and move on. You've received a copy of the May 11th meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those? And if so, I would ask for a motion to approve. Thank you, Marvin. Any second on that?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. And it's passed. Okay, let's go on. And Roger, you're going to talk to us about potential donation.
Oh, I can't bring it in.
Logan wanted me to touch on the Affordable Housing Information Session, which will be July 11th between 4 and 6 p.m. at the Advanced Learning Library. It will answer any questions regarding affordable housing. So you have a flyer in front of you. Everyone who's interested in it, of course, is welcome to it.
Roger, I think this affordable housing fund is for individuals
Yes.
to help on home improvements and also to get, some of them, it could be rent also, is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Rental.
Anyone and everyone is a developer.
Developers and individuals, okay.
Then moving on. Logan was contacted by a homeowner, 1819 South Market, and I believe you have a synopsis there in your packet. So, but the owner was contacted Logan a few weeks ago at the property 1819 South Market. The owner came into the property because the wife passed away in 2021. He received the unit through probate. The owner kept the property tax specials current and is trying to rent it out. He's made various repairs to the property, but it had code enforcement for foundation, drywall and plumbing issue. Once it was tagged, he decided to sell the unit, but there's a $43,000 medical assistance lien on it from the state. Staff found a copy of the medical assistance lien on the Register of Deeds, Sedgwick County, and provided a document to the owner. Staff also saw on the Register of Deeds where the property went through probate, but those documents are not public. There appear to be no other liens on the property. Staff let the owner know that unless the medical assistance liens were forgiven, the land bank would not be interested in it. The land bank does not have the ability to clear the lien. The owner will be reaching out to the state to see if they will forgive the lien if the property is donated to the land bank, and also make them aware that the property in its current state is not worth $43,000, which is. Should the lien be forgiven, the city will run either a preliminary title search or an ordinance and encumbrance report to identify any other possible liens against the property. I think we have a photograph. That's the location. Photograph there is the red property in the middle. And I apologize if I went through that brief.
What's the zoning on that, you know?
Sure, it's probably just residential zoning.
This is not in any of our focus areas, is it not?
Other areas.
I don't believe so.
Jeff, can you give Any information, what the medical lien, is this with the state of Kansas? Is that how that works?
Yeah. If the gentleman owns a number of properties, it's probably a blanket lien against all of them. And I don't know if the state would have any willingness to defer it against this particular property, if it's in the land bank or not. You know, John and I weren't really asked to inquire about that, so we still might just give that one more shot to see if the property otherwise far away, but you know, otherwise the condition of the property, but I don't know if the guy would be willing to sell it for. We have other factors that we'd have to look at, but you know, that's kind of an odd lien. It could be the, you know, pushing a rope scenario, trying to find the right person that can make the decision to forgive on one property.
If it's taken away in the tax foreclosure, does that automatically eliminate the?
I don't know. I don't know that it'll.
Because I know it would on a lane, no, it would on a sheriff's sale, but I don't know on a, I would assume it would on a tax sale.
I think so too. I think so, but, because they're wiped out, like you said, otherwise, and, you wouldn't be able to ever foreclose on a property if you had a lien like this against it, so.
It's similar to just a regular lien.
Yeah, it's just, it's a,
Tax foreclosure.
right, it's just trying to find the right person to release it.
Length of time that. You know, it's on there. So
I think it's gonna run forever because it's on his whole portfolio.
Yeah.
And the gentleman we've bought from him in the past, if it's the same guy, and he's got a lot of rental properties. So it's just a blanket lane.
Are they behind on taxes?
I think he said they were
They're
current.
current, they're current on taxes.
So that's another.
They are current on taxes. He's trying to keep the property up.
see slumlord,
What's that?
see slumlord.
Was it when we dealt with him?
City owned another property.
When we've dealt with him, he hasn't shown as such. But we have, you know, we've dealt with him on individual properties that we need for projects and stuff.
Like $43,000, you'd resolve that if you had a number of different properties. You could take care of it. Yeah.
Well, I'll talk to Sally when she gets back. I understand she's got jury duty next week, so if I can catch her, if she could get out or whatever, but I'll try to catch her as soon as I can. And we'll try to inquire with the state. I mean, I'm not sure who to call, but we'll just start calling and find out what we can do.
I'm not sure what one house and not a area of focus for us do for the land bank.
The only thing I could see would be like, if we got it, you know, the guy says for $500, I'll sell it to you, kind of, I'm tired of messing with it or something like that. You know, this would be a perfect, if we could find a scenario like that, this would be like a perfect entryway into doing something from the land bank, you know? Yeah, you know, we don't want to start off with like Town West Mall or something. We want to take on something to kind of go, to learn, to go through the process and, you know, go through it like that. And you know, every time we do it, we're going to find something that can be done probably a little easier. You know, we don't want it with this lien, but I don't know what we did to, and Sally may have tried to call it and find out if the way to waive. I just don't know today if we've done that or not, but we'll keep it on the books till check that lien out a little bit.
You follow that up, we appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, Roger, you mentioned that we have something, just so you know, we don't have anything in our packets
No.
on this. So that being said, do you mind going back to that previous slide? The one with the bullet points, yeah. So code enforcement flagged it. Does that mean the property's not being kept up?
Well, according to the synopsis that Roman gave. The property was flagged for code enforcement for the foundation, drywall, and plumbing issue.
Foundation.
The owner has put on a new roof and a new water line.
And then when it says the owner inquired of the land bank, does that mean the owner offered to sell it to the land bank or give
They
it?
contacted Logan as a donation.
So they said, we put on a roof, but now that we find out we've got foundation problems, we want to give it away.
They want to, and the $43,000 medical probably goes.
Sure, yeah, I get that part. I was just trying to figure out if it's worth the attorneys spending their time trying to figure out the medical lien. If it's got a foundation problem, or
Yeah, that would be,
somebody who was willing to pay for a roof isn't willing to pay for the other things. I'm just thinking, maybe it's a property you'd scrape anyway and start fresh, right?
Jeff, again, if you want to do a little more research, that's fine, but I sure wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on
no. But this is a good learning point. We need to have this team approach when we find a property where different people with different disciplines can look at it, and say, you know, it's exactly what you brought up, saying, well, wait a minute, let's have somebody go look at that foundation, because it sounds good otherwise, but if we get in there and we've got 25,000 of foundational repairs that we have to do, not worth it, so.
it. Is that something that our city staff would do more investigation before we even talk about it, or?
Yeah, I would like, that's what I said, I think we need to work that out with staff looking at it, because if MABCD is looking at it, they may have pictures, they may have somebody that's actually had eyes on it to say, no, this is some real issues. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen when we have a condemnation, they have the pictures and they have those kind of reports. Maybe they've got that on this, and that would, I'll check on that as
Well,
well.
go tomorrow and look at it.
Okay.
I have to look at, I have one at 1812 South Main, so right
Too far off, so that'd be
a
great.
block away.
Properties like this too, if you want to send that out ahead of time, and maybe we can go out and take a look, or at least get a better idea of what it looks like. I mean, I'd have no problem driving by or walking around the property, so. Not that I'd be an expert.
At this point, though, I think the biggest learning opportunity is for the attorneys to see if they can get the right people at the state for future reference and get them to understand, this is not a property you want a $43,000 lien on. And if the gentleman owner actually has multiple properties, they might be more willing to understand.
And if it's
Let's
going to
clean
a
this up
land
and get
bank.
somebody a house to live in.
A lot of times what I've found in prior lives is showing, one, there's no money going to the debtor owner of it, and two, it's going to the land bank. So there'd be more of an, impetus to allow that release on this property, so.
House is going to continue to deteriorate if nothing happens. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the other land bank update. Jeff, you have some other information?
Sure. I'll just do it from here. Okay. I checked with Pittsburgh and Wyandotte County Unified Government, how they do their tax sales and how they get title. What Pittsburgh, what they do is they just have a standing bid, and Wyandotte County does this too, but Pittsburgh takes all properties that are not sold. Wyandotte County now is being selective of which ones they take, because they've got 2,000 properties or whatever. They realize that they're going to get, they were upside down anyway, and so they're trying to limit what they're doing. So, and that's kind of what we want to do, is pick and choose which properties we're into. But what they do is they have this base bid, and if nobody outbids them, then it goes to the land bank, meaning land bank is shown to be the successful bidder. The title will then go from the sheriff to the land bank, and then the debt is forgiven at that point. And now what we'll have to do is meet with the county here in Sedgwick County and visit with them to find out exactly what they're willing to do or not do. They've not had this experience before. They may say, well, we still have attorney's fees and title costs per property, per parcel, that they might want us to pay for that kind of a thing. But then otherwise the taxes are, city, county, and school district. So we may have to get agreements from all of them to be able to, they agree to waive it when it comes to us. Now, the other thing, to be politically, transparent about what we're doing with that. Otherwise, if it comes to the land bank does have the judicial authority, the statutory authority to forgive those taxes. But there is some concern. John and I have talked about, like, if we just say, well, we want that property and therefore, we get it, are we nothing, if you will, are we injecting ourselves in front of the public if somebody else really wanted that property? So maybe the only way to do it, since we're not doing all, we're just doing what we want, would be to identify that property. The county would be aware of it. And then it'd say this is in the private sector, we'd call it a credit bid, although we don't have any credit to bid it, but it's kind of a bogus bid, whatever you want to call it. Phantom bid, that's right. That's the term we came up with. The phantom bid amount, and then if somebody wanted to outbid it, we just lose out, but that way we wouldn't be no one could object to us getting in there, kind of a thing. But we will have to get with the county and visit with them, and we'll try to set that up. They may want their attorney there as well, but if you could assist with that too, to explain what we're trying to do and how everybody else does it, because they're not going to know how Wyandotte County or Pittsburgh does it, and that'll be the next big step. We still have all the concerns, personally, sheriff sale is probably the least of the desirable ways to try to obtain property because of the amount of time it takes to track it. When they talked about it last time, they talked about, they had them on the list and then they redeem, and it's really day trading when it comes to real estate. And so you can spend a lot of time and energy trying to track a particular property. And so it's the least favorite for me, but if we can find some that come up on the list, at least, we want to be able to have a standing bid. So we'll work on that, and I'll try to get that meeting with the county as soon as I can and see what the temperature is for participating.
My understanding, I talked to the county or had one of our attorneys talk. 3 years delinquent taxes before it goes to the tax sale. You can pay 1 year at a time and get it removed. Their preference is one tax sale a year. I believe it happens June, July, or August. They said it varies.
4 years.
But they're three.
It's 3, but it's been statistically 4 or more.
Before they get to it,
But once it hits 3 delinquent, then you start.
start the process. But at any time, if you pay 1 year taxes, you're back
Out of the queue and they wait.
until next year.
And Gary, you talking to the treasurer?
So, to me, if it's only once a year that occurs, that gives you plenty of time to look. But like I say, I don't know how much time you spend, get the list 2 months ahead of time, and you start doing your research. Half of them all get redeemed before it gets to the sale, my guess, if not more.
There is a way. We have enacted an ordinance that allows us after 1 year to specifically identify a property. Now, this is the city, then we haven't amended it to allow the land bank to do the same thing. And we may have to look into that, but the city can identify a property after 1 year and it puts it in the tax. After that, then it'll put it in the tax foreclosure sale process. Now that's still something that takes quite a while to get through. But at least a property, if you talk to the owner, you could get it and they're wanting to do something, but they can't pay the taxes. It's like I run into scenarios where they inherited it from their grandma and they just don't have the money to feed their family and take care of that house too and pay the taxes or whatever. But what it does is it sits there for 3 or 4 years deteriorating and it becomes very difficult to do anything with them. So it is an opportunity if the right scenario comes about to get it into that process. We could still be outbid, but that's not a bad thing,
I have a update for tax deal. I have a scenario here where I had a gentleman buy a property at a tax auction 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And security title would not give them their title to sell it because they needed to track down the other owner.
Family members.
Yeah. So he knew the guy and got him to sign it. Unfortunately, he was divorced. And the wife, well, she obviously wasn't sign anything. So that didn't go anywhere. So I talked to another gentleman, his name is Greg Tennant. Holmes, you ever heard of him? Greg Tennant? Okay. His brother is like a doctor or something, owns like 400 or 500 houses here. I dealt with some stuff with him, and he said, you need to do a bridge. And I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. What's a bridge? And he said, there's this company in Overland Park that does a title bridge.
John's gonna be talking about
Yeah,
that.
and so anyway, I did it. I got it done. They just sent it to underwriting and they just approved it actually yesterday. And all I need to do now is give it to the title company. The approval's good for 90 days. Now, it's expensive. This house was $27,000 and it was $1,895 to do this. So,
And there's still a question whether, even though you get the certificate, whether
yeah.
security's gonna accept it or not.
Yeah, security.
Well, I'm not using security. I'm using Alpha Title.
Okay, you're using.
So I decided to change that too because security was giving me some stuff over it. So I just moved it to Alpha. I don't know. I could send you a copy of this thing if you've done it before.
No, we've got the research. We've
Done it. I didn't know it existed until he told me about it. So
There's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel associated with getting title following a tax sale.
now,
About a week ago, it was like locally, you know, I went to a seminar where their general counsel spoke and he was just pretty much like, you know, if everything was perfect, we might wait 2 years, but you know, it might be 15 before we'd even consider it or something. And you're like, oh my gosh. So
that's what security had told me. They said that I'd have to wait 15 years on some lots I bought.
They'll do it in 2 if you clean title.
Yeah.
No.
But you got a clean title. And we had a long discussion with them this week and walked through all the scenarios. If we did this and we did this, and it finally came down to nationally, they will not accept the risk, even if you have totally clean title. And their concern was that somebody files a suit, they come in and they tell a sad story to the court. And the court just says, cool, you get the property back. And so, yeah, security said the least they would do was 2 years, even if we could prove the title is pure. And so they that kind of dead ends it. That's why I was asking if you're using security. I don't think they'll go with title bridge, even with the certificate, but a smaller firm might.
Looks
Like
like the title bridge, what, is that just like additional title insurance that someone?
What they do is they go out and clean title. They go out and make sure that service was perfected. They follow up on divorces, sisters that were on the deed that have disappeared. And if they can clean it and they get right out front and say that they're not going to get all your properties, you'll pay them a down payment of $350, non-refundable. Then if they clean it, they will issue a certificate based on the value of the property, and it runs $1,500 to $2,500 thereabouts. That certificate is then presented to the title company. And depending on the title company, there's Wyandotte uses a firm, My Clear Title is who they use up in Kansas City. And I talked to them and they said they're licensed to work down here. But they will issue a binder. And then if there's a challenge, title bridge defends. And there's the issue for the title companies is that the risk reward situation, they issue a binder for whatever, $5,000, $10,000, and they get challenged. Their legal fees are going to blow right through that. Well, with title bridge, you're offloading that risk to title bridge. And so it looks like it's something we could take a look at. Now, how many properties do they reject? Because you can't clear, I don't know. But something that we could do is we firm up our process, we're not going to be looking at everything in the tax sale. We're going to be looking at 5 or 10 properties. We could pull a title certificate ahead of time for $125 and take a look and just see if there's anything out there that you're just not going to be able to get around, and we walk away from the property. But it looks like there could be a workaround to this title insurance issue. Now, a question that I don't know the answer to, and we probably need to talk to some of these other land banks, is, your next issue is, we go out and we get a property out of tax sale for $5,000, you get a binder for $5,000. Somebody's going to put an $80,000 house on it. The lender's going to want to buy it. And so we need to make sure that either My Clear Title will also issue the lender's binder, or this certificate and stuff will transfer. But that'll be a question for Wyandotte or somebody as to how that works.
But the lender's title could be just like security. They go, we don't want to take that kind of a chance. And so now we've got a property that a developer is not going to be interested in because of that scenario. So that's something else we have to kind of explore. And that was, I was talking to the council for a unified government, county and land bank, and that didn't come up as far as what
It really has to be an investor who wants to buy it onto it for a period of time until time eliminates the risk.
Or, I'm hoping that if we talk to Wyandotte, because I had a very relatively short conversation with folks at My Clear Title, trying to find out what they did and how they tied back in. I'm hoping that it'll just transfer. They've got an arrangement that if they issue, an owner's binder, they will also issue a lender's binder. And if that happens, then the risk for the lender would be transferred over to Title Bridge. And then it just come down to, as a lender, as a developer, do you trust these companies? But that's true of any title company. There's been title companies that went out of business over the years. So
The challenge would be as lender, does Title Bridge have enough wherewithal to stand by?
Once you pull the deal from Alpha Title, it looks like they assigned this insurance to this Alliance National Title Insurance.
your title companies all have an insurance company that backs them.
Right.
And Alliant is the same one that works with My Clear Title. So we might even be able to skip My Clear Title and drop down to Alpha if they're local.
No, but if you were to use Alpha and then you bought a piece of land and you had to do this, you had to put something on it, you just go back to Alpha since they're the one that issued the title insurance, to do the title insurance in the next binder.
That is my assumption, is that the lender's binder will come from there, but you wouldn't be able to take it from Alliant to like Security. I think Security uses Columbian or is their backing insurance company, and apparently Columbian won't cover that.
Okay.
And so,
I was just talking about he brought up the lender's thing of getting the title. I was thinking you just go to the same.
I would assume that'll work. And then, but then as Gary says, the bank would have to be comfortable that Alliant has enough legs to stand up if they start getting sued.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's great information. If you would continue to follow up and let us know what you find out, so we understand this better. Any other points on title insurance or?
I want to ask a question, Gary, I'm just thinking about it. I don't know the answer to this, but if the home is that you're trying to get a hold of, looking at other factors as well, it's designated as blighting neighborhood, is there any special things that can happen because of blight designation?
I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of.
Neither.
Probably goes back to, I thought that was interesting, the fact that the city could do something to expedite the foreclosure. So
We've had scenarios in the past where somebody says, I've got this property, I don't want it. Can you guys do something with it? And we've never had a tool in the past to be able to kind of move. Tax sale, so the idea was this was to be placed into the tax sale early. I don't think at the time that was done, it predated me, but at the time it was done, anybody thought about the title issues that we're now addressing. So to kind of piece all this together, and to have to find out for sure.
I'd love to have just procedures of, i.e. somebody says, I want to give this property to you, but I've got $1,000 of back taxes I don't want to pay. So what's the procedure for that? Another one like Wes brought up, here's a blighted area, community, all of a sudden somebody has a house they're not taking care of and they said, okay, I don't want it, it's yours. What do we need to do? You know, what are the steps in order to get clear title or get to the point where we can engage my clear title or whatever to get that done? I think
We'll work on that. I did one that's more just, words. It says step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't know the answers to some of them, which we're starting to try to figure that out. But I think what we'll try to do is we piece all this various information together. We'll put it one of those diagrams where it's a flow chart. You go to here, whatever we need to do. Because that's ideally what we want to do, what the reports look like as well. You guys may want more information or less on certain things, so we'll try to get a report when we bring it to you that has the details, kind of like the questions on the foundation, and we'll try to be a little more informative of that so that when you guys sit there and say, yes, I'm going to vote, you accept it or not accept it, that, you're fully informed on it. And have pictures as much as we can take.
I think information that city council gets on some of these properties would provide us a lot more information. So
We'll try to mirror that off.
At the wheel, let's
We'll try to mirror that off condemnation or dangerous and unsafe structures. So that's a good place to start.
I was just going to ask, what I think I heard Gary say and what I heard Wes say were a little different, similar, but not the same. And so as you're plotting out both of those, I think I heard Gary say, if they're going to give it, trying to get rid of. And I think I might have heard Wes say, if there's a situation by which we would take it. Is that a fair? So as you plot those out.
Sure. My scenario is they're almost the same thing, whether we're going to pay $500 or they offer it as a donation. But if we're going to pay, then there's one more step of, is that a price that we're willing to pay for it? If it is, then you go to the next step. If it's a donation, then they both kind of start tracking each other, saying, now we're looking at title, condition and title kind of scenario. So,
Well, and I think we would have slightly different paths to your point. If it's a want, if it's one we've identified this way, but if it's one like the one we were discussing here, I think you'd have a lot more due diligence and review to see if it's something, because we've got targeted areas that if we can get something in there, we want it. Then I think we should be open to taking an asset that will develop value, even if it's not a target area. But I think the paths will be fairly similar. Likewise, if it's a blighted situation versus a tax sale situation versus a donation, there'll be slightly different steps, but I think you can get them all in one set of decision trees.
I think so too.
good information, things we need to be thinking about when we do have the opportunity. Because I'd rather think through some of this instead of having the pressure of saying, okay, I need to get this resolved in 30 days. And not talk through the whole process. Good. Anything else on the title insurance update, John? Did you have anything else?
That's pretty well it. Just want to fill in some of the blanks, but it looks like there's a solution, and the fact that Alpha is in town, we'll reach out to them and see, because I'm more comfortable dealing with somebody local. And granted, they share information, but the title libraries tend to be relatively specialized by location. So having somebody local probably will get us a better call.
Have somebody local to find out what they will do, because some of it's dictated by the local people too. So Okay, let's go ahead and move on, if there's no other discussion on that, to the potential focus areas. I know we've had a chance to review these maps a couple times. Any other thoughts or comments? I think these are all good areas. I'm a little concerned that there's a lot of area there. I mean, do we try to limit, or do we just wait and see what the opportunities are now? That's sort of my suggestion, is there's nothing yet that I think we're ready to jump on. So let's continue to leave these open for potential areas. And if we start seeing some opportunities, then maybe we narrow our focus. Thoughts, comments on that?
I think it's probably what, just do it now. We focus on need to do facilitate that focus.
Sounds like the only thing that we have access to, actually, for
Donation.
donation.
And
It's not like we're having 40 or 50 donations that we're deciding. We got like one in an area that's not even in our area, so
I
we
think,
have to wait and see what comes up. We have a lot of options.
and I think when Sally starts doing some things with some of these program houses, then maybe we can figure out how we can complement her in some of those areas. I think that might be, I don't think we're there yet. So.
Here's something I want to ask a question. If you recall yesterday, talking to council, special pilot program, councilman Nelson. It does work. Process to get just to use to get it right. Seems to be like look at some pilot. If we could overlay it, might be helpful. Facilitating, have all the resources at disposal.
Yeah, so just to recap, so everybody can hear Wes's concern, the idea is there an opportunity here to recreate a new neighborhood revitalization program? We used to have it in Wichita, and a lot of small communities around have it. And I also, actually, I know from my prior life in Derby, we hadn't had one. And so what it is you designate an area, and then if you need to do home improvements and such, you can pay for those and then get like 5 years on your property taxes with the county appraiser to make clear that those improvements, say you put $5,000 into your house, that won't mean an immediate tax increase when the county gives you basically kind of a 5-year waiting period before those improvements start kicking on. So you don't get hit with the higher tax bill as soon as you improve.
You can debate it.
Yeah, abatement from the improvements.
Improved part.
Yeah, so I know that some recent, not Wichita research, but some research that we did a year or so ago in Derby. I mean, we were looking and talking with some of the cities around the state that have done those, and it's a real mixed bag in terms of the belief of whether it makes a difference. Because it can sound good, but is it helpful to know that, okay, if I spend $5,000, I'll have this marginal increase in my taxes over 5 years waived. Is that really going to be enough to get you to spend $5,000? Or is it kind of too little too late for a lot of families? So, but I hear what you're saying, and I do think it's something that the city is considering, and we might be considering some other things as well that would help people more upfront, incentivize them to make those
I want
improvements.
to open that discussion that planning was having. As a doctor, planning director, and I thought we did that. I said, well, I asked Sally, and she said she's still waiting on the jail. Who's understanding it was put on hold. He said, oh, thanks a lot. I said, somebody doesn't know what they're talking about, but I think it is on hold.
Well, you know, my experience the last few months in the City of Wichita organization is that there's a lot of good people and a lot of good ideas,
There are.
but we don't have time to do everything all at once.
That's exactly it.
Exactly. So it's probably on the list, but
And I think
yeah.
it has merit as far as the 2 or 3 things probably holding. I think now with far as we've gone. Probably get in there and figure that
But I'd like to resurrect the research that we had a staff person do in Derby last year, because it's just that whole idea of how do you incentivize people to make improvements in their own homes? And the only reason everybody around the state was doing those neighborhood revitalization programs, NRPs, was because it was specified in state law. Here's something you can do. But when you start talking to people, you're like, yeah, we don't really know that it's doing much good. You know, so maybe there's other ways to do that incentive.
Ballpark, $5,000 investment in your home equals how much increase in your tax liability?
I'm not qualified to say that. What it is. It kind of depends. I mean, if you're just doing maintenance, I mean, it may be expensive maintenance, but it's not something the appraiser's going to say, oh, well, that's a room addition. Yeah, I mean, that's a,
You really haven't changed the value of your house. You add on a room, then all of a sudden you might have a little bit of a bump. But I think most of it's probably maintenance stuff.
yes.
The other one, now that we talked about state taxes, yeah, I believe part of the tax bill that passed in Topeka this last year had a benefit for over 65 years of age and people with income less than X. Their real estate taxes are fixed for the remainder forever, what I understand.
Did that part pass?
Did it pass?
I think
I
so.
thought it did. I thought it was tacked on. 65 years of age, and then the income was 20 or 30,000. It's pretty small. But if you fit into that category, then your real estate taxes will not increase. But I did not research
Yeah.
it anymore. I'll try to dig a little bit and I'll.
I have to ask the county appraiser if that got implemented. It seems to me like the final tax bill got in there. You know how there was the $20,000 waiver? Didn't that go to 40? That affects everybody.
It does.
That's just something, again, that's just part of the tools we need to have in our tool chest. To be able to say, okay, you're thinking about making an improvement to your house. How old are you? Okay, here we have some opportunities.
It keeps people in the houses affordable.
I'd rather do that than try to take over something actual.
Yep.
And now we gotta fix all this up.
I'd rather have them fix it and then continue living in it and improve the neighborhood than,
Okay, so if I'm understanding what you're saying, Gary, is you're thinking the land bank can serve as almost a counselor kind of role with providing information of, oh, having trouble making ends meet. Did you know this tax deal, and did you know this, and here's an incentive or whatever.
trying to improve these neighborhoods, especially the specific ones in this area. Instead of us taking ownership of a property, maybe we can convince an owner to invest $5,000 in improving it, and they continue to live in their neighborhood and not have additional expense related to it.
Maybe one other thing too, when we talk about improving the appearance, improvements, and that sort of thing. There's a residential facade program still in stuff.
Residential?
Facade.
I don't know of a residential. What do you mean still available? Do you mean the commercial?
James R. Berth and I worked. He did. There, built all those new houses, showed up. A couple of the streets in one in particular leading from, I think it was up where it was 4 or 5 blocks. It was a residential facade program where people could apply to go in and fix up their house and improve the front of it, the streetscape and everything else. And they assess the cost against, he's doing that as a special assessment, pay back over in 15 years.
Did you say in Bel Air?
No, Miller was,
Oh, the Millar.
that was, but I'm sure they use residential facade.
I think,
But those are homes.
I think that may have been part of the whole NRA deal.
They've been-
I know there was a rebate program they used to monitor. I think it either got shut down or went.
A bunch of people that did it, and because they said if you're gonna have a new area up there, you know, you got That looked very good, driving up to it, and that be approved, and that was part of what was offered to prove that. I think most people took advantage of it, made a difference.
You mentioned that, I sort of remember that a long time.
I think anything we can do like that, going into an area, make it facilitate people wanting to make improvements. There's a lot of times when areas being improved, they don't just step up and make some improvements. Instead, it will continue to go downhill. And it's a pretty expensive way to do it.
Question, what about if in this area, the pilot areas we're looking at, what if the, brought up the tax foreclosure? What if we actually bought them from the sheriff's sale at the courthouse? Like the sheriff's sale, can we do that, the land bank?
We certainly can if we have the money available to do it. We're in the same position, and we just talked about if we did a credit bid, it would have to, we actually paid money.
I mean, obviously it'd be a lot cleaner because it'd be a sheriff's deed and it's,
We would get that from the way this would work. We would be in the same position as somebody that paid cash. We're gonna get a sheriff's deed, we're gonna get everything like we want it. So whether we pay money or not, isn't gonna make a difference in that perspective, so.
right now, I get the Sedgwick County Post, I read through there, and it was, there were about 6 foreclosures on there about 6 months ago. There's 50, and it's gonna get a lot larger. The FHA is very behind, the VA is very behind. We're gonna see hundreds of foreclosures. It's gonna happen. I've got banks calling me left and right. I've got a whole bunch of inventory coming up at the end of the year. It's gonna be bottlenecked right now because it's just all in a, can't get out, but it's gonna go out because right now they're focusing more on, Wichita's kind of at the bottom of the barrel probably because our values are not as much as Texas, or California, or Florida. Obviously, if you can get $900,000 or $1 million off your books with the bank, they're going to those instead of the smaller ones in Wichita. But I'm getting calls every day to go by and drive by houses. Some of these people, I went to a lady yesterday, she hasn't made a payment since March of 2019.
Is that what these are? A lot of the COVID people who didn't.
Pre-COVID. Because the people were already in foreclosure and then in January they stopped.
Put on hold.
So all those people actually never made it to foreclosure. And now the people are just waiting to be kicked out, basically. They're just gonna leave. Now, some of the people are already gone. I've been to like probably 50 houses in the last like 3 months, and 50% of them there's just nobody there, and they're gone. I don't know where they're at. They've disappeared, but those houses, a lot of them are in some of these areas, so they are available.
The only problem is.
Did you say the redemption period is 90 days?
In most cases, it's 90 days.
Less, more than.
Unless 50% equity, then it's a year.
Here, and then problem is they're gonna bid the amount due on the note.
Yeah, there'll be a credit bid.
Credit bid, and a lot of times that's more than we may wanna come into a property for, so. You know, I used to do a lot of foreclosures. I've been somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000. You know, people call all the time saying how much is due on it. I didn't mind giving the dollar amount out because it's one was in my petition, but two, it's like we got to outbid. That's great, but you know, a lot of times we were bidding the amount due, and the property really wasn't worth that amount.
What does it entail when they have a deficiency judgment? When do they actually get that amount in there? Where it's not deficiency from the actual amount? I mean, where do they come up with that? Is it some kind of I never knew where they come up with that, because sometimes
You either bid the amount due or the amount of the fair market value of the property.
like the BPO that somebody can provide.
So
You bid a fair market value and you sell it for that, but they owed more. You can go back after them for the deficiency.
They never do.
I know only one person out of all of that called me up saying somebody was trying to collect the deficiency, because there's places around the country that'll buy, you know, at 5% on the value or something like that. They'll try to collect a little out of some of them, so.
Okay,
Well, and back to your point, Gary, earlier, if you've got like 7 neighborhoods here and you're saying, if I understand you right, you're saying we think these are 7 good potential areas to focus on, but there's no benefit to narrowing that down at this point. That's what
Exactly,
we think.
Kathy, because until we know of a project or we know where Sally's going with HUD money and what they're gonna do, I think it's very much a shotgun approach right now, and it's onesie twosie. Once we have an overall project, then we may focus on 1 or 2 of these areas. Leave the other one.
Who will pick the budget?
So a little bit of, we're not wasting time. We need some time to pass, to learn some things, to maybe work on some onesie twosies to build up maybe those flow charts of information and the list of incentive and advice, and here's how you get help. So that once you target an area, you've got something to show. So maybe we, the land bank and the staff, we ought to be working on our informational pieces, our legal information, and the housing department's houses that they're trying to go ahead and sell. So let all those processes keep working.
And
then
the question for Sally is how can the land bank help
Yes.
move our goal of housing for everybody forward, especially in these targeted areas?
Sounds great.
Any questions for you? Who will determine project or projects? It's time, you know.
No, I don't. I mean, I think everybody's leaning on this land bank board to,
Yeah.
learn things and figure things out, but no one's pushing you to make a decision real fast. I think you're telling us, here's what we need. And if I were Sally sitting here, just like Jeff is, and John's saying, well, we need some time to get this information figured out. So,
I think Sally's involved to the extent now that what participated, he'll be in a position to say that's an area that could be focused. And then we can take a look at it.
I'm sure she'll have very good advice and
Oh, yeah,
information on the
yeah.
matter. If there's been a discussion about how do we make a decision, I'm not aware of it. Okay.
It's kind of happening.
Any other business?
Just one thought, what time is this event?
4 to 6 p.m.
Thank you. 4 to 6 p.m.
July 11th. Advanced learning.
July 11th.
Just one other quick thought. I'd encourage you to, as you're looking through the whole system, that if there are statutes that it creates it to where you can't go any further, those are some things we need to look at as well. And maybe the state, those things can be changed. So I would encourage you to don't stop there, say, well, if we didn't have this as a roadblock, we can get that changed. That would be a game changer. We want to hear those things too. Talk to our and get those things changed. There's no reason.
Good idea. Yeah, once we get, I don't think they've even hired the new people yet, supposed to kind of run it, but, that's going to help a lot because they'll be focused, be able to focus on these particular areas. When we could do things like we need to do a speak at the Wichita Area Realtors Association meeting and kind of get the education out there of what we're trying to do. And the more people know what we're trying to do, the better, because a lot of people won't know that, there's an option to donate to us. They think they're stuck in those taxes. They don't know what to do, and if they knew that they could donate to us, not get out from under the taxes, even so they have a tax break for doing so, it'd be a great burden for them. So a lot of this is going to take some education, some information out in the public.
Here's the other thing, just drag this on much longer, legislative wise. I mean, the state put $50 million into rural housing this last year. And I think that's wonderful, but it doesn't do anything for Wichita. So what are the things that we should be saying? Okay, state, we agree with you, housing is very, very important. But we also have a need in a larger city. And what does that look like in our community? Is it affordable housing? Is it rehab? What do we need to be thinking about for next year that we ought to be pushing from the land bank saying, okay, here's what the city's doing. Now state, you need to step up in this area. So keep that in mind every year.
Is any, this, these, on this group 3, 35 homes in Country Acres? What is that group? Is that the Central and Ridge Country Acres? Okay, so are we talking about the ones that are behind, over there by the Y, or is that,
Yes.
so the ones that the city owned there that used to be the Section 8 housing?
All city owned. They're
Okay.
Freeman.
Are those, and those are all empty now?
No, they are not.
Oh, they're
There are
occupied,
some that are occupied.
but the city still owns them and they're on Section 8?
Yes.
Okay.
They're public housing.
Oh, they're public.
Yeah, Section 8 and public housing are two different programs funded by HUD. The city owns those properties, not the Section 8.
And they're selling those off as a group?
Yes.
Okay. What's the time frame on that?
Well, we're doing the first 37, which are the scattered sites, hopefully this year.
I'm still waiting on approval.
Yes, we could submit the demo DESPO plan,
Oh,
Saying
okay.
when they're
Section 18.
Okay, I didn't see that. Oh, this one didn't have a time. It says.
timing unknown.
Yeah. We want to move,
In this
Through the-
order, though.
yeah, we want to move through those first 37 as a learning curve.
Okay. You let me know when you get to 35. Got someone will buy them right now.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Just one more comment.
Yes.
Logan wanted me to show you the one slide. If you want to donate or have questions regarding that, that's the email address, and that's Logan's phone number at the bottom. She'd prefer the email.
Has that been sent to all of us, or could it be?
Yes,
So why don't you just send a slide deck if you would? 'Cause I know we didn't have that.
I'll have, yeah, Logan can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Motion first, second. All in favor, say aye. Have a great day. Steps.
You know, I think we talked about.
I think so.